Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 191. And man, today we're gonna talk about how to be vulnerable and how it's important to be vulnerable. Because I for one, I struggle with that, man. I'm not gonna lie. As much as I communicate with people, as much as I am social with people, I struggle with being vulnerable. Was having a conversation last night, and I said, yeah, I think a lot of people misread my ability to communicate with other people simply because of who I am, what I do, X, Y, and Z, right? And I said, yeah, it's true, because at the end of the day, how we communicate is very important. There's one particular individual pointed out a behavior that I do, right? When they bring up certain things, not that I shut down per se, but I have a tendency to become really reclusive. If it's an argument, I don't fight with you. If it's something that's I think it's gonna lead to an argument, I leave the conversation. I'm always open to communicate about it, but at the same time, you're not gonna force me to communicate with you. Because a lot of the times, man, is I just need space and opportunity to digest what the fuck is being told to me. And once I do that, I'm fine. It's when I feel like I'm being pressured to have a conversation right then and there, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to have this right now. And it doesn't matter, bro. It could be 10, 15 minutes, could be 20 minutes, could be a couple days, whatever it is. I literally just don't like to be pressured into talking about something when I'm not ready to talk about it. Because I've been through it before, where it's like individuals are like, yeah, well, I need space and opportunity to, to digest this and think about it, yada yada yada. And they say, yo, it's like, okay, like, in my experience though, if you need more than a couple of days to actually digest it, then it's like it's not for you. Like, I've had people come back to people like a couple of weeks later, like, okay, I'm ready to talk about. Ready to talk about what? I ain't spoke to you in fucking 2 weeks. What you want? Yeah, and regardless, I am talking about relationships too. Um, and it's also something that's extremely important too. You never want to let somebody dictate how you feel about a situation, but at the same time, you're never gonna want to give somebody control to tell you, oh, I'm ready to talk about this now, so you better be ready about it too. And like, no, it don't work that way. It doesn't. I don't care who you are. I don't care what the situation is. It's like, you have no right to tell somebody when and where they should be ready to talk about a situation. Because how they feel about it is 100% valid. How you go about it, your behavior about it is 100% not acceptable. There's this quote that I ran across, and I've been saying it ever since. I don't remember who coined the quote, or who, X, Y, and Z, but the quote said, "Your feelings are valid. Your behavior in this situation is not valid." And it's true. You look at people who shut down. You look at people who don't deal with conflict well. And it's different. Conflict is different because it's like, usually when I get reclusive, it's because I'm being accused of doing something that I'm not doing. And instead of me jumping on that rabbit hole, instead of me getting upset with that individual, because it's like, what's the point? You know, obviously this is coming from a place where it's a place of hurt because, you know, for whatever reason, you know, like you think I'm doing this or doing that, and I'm not. And it most likely stems from your past experiences too. I, for one, like I am not immune to being insecure. I'm not immune to like, you know, just going through shit, right? Like I'm not immune to it, you know, and it's like in certain situations, people want to be like, oh yeah, you know, I don't know why this is, you know, this and this, you know, this or that, you know, this or this, or this or this, this or this or that is happening to me. I don't know why this is happening, like X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, you look at this situation, it's like, yo, because you're still dealing with something that you know you shouldn't have to be dealing with. You're still trying to converse with people who are in your past. You know, you're still trying to make space for people who don't belong there. And it's like, okay, yeah, but at the same time, when you do that, when you make space for people in your present who belong in your past, you end up fucking up a lot of things that could go right because you're constantly worried about what could go wrong, you know, or you're constantly thinking these chaotic thoughts. And part of being vulnerable is like knowing when your needs and your and everything else is being met. You know, I'm not saying that this individual has to be at your beckoning call. I'm not saying all that because who the fuck wants to be with somebody that's always available? You know, it's like who the fuck wants to be with somebody who's never got nothing going on? You know, and that to me that's always weird. It's like okay, it's like yeah, you can do that, but that's fine. I think it's weird that you want to do that. I think it's weird that you know that this is the cause of that, right? And also too, I think it's important when people bring up behavior, you know, because I for one, you know, I exhibit the same behavior in some situations. Not that it's bad, but one of the things that was pointed out to me was that hey yo, every time I bring up something like this particular incident or this particular type of situation, um, you get real quiet, you get reclusive. I was like, yo, is it because it's like number one, it's like that's not. I don't want to say that's necessarily true because behavior never lies. People do, you know. Behavior never lies. Um, it's when you're it's when you're exhibiting the same behavior over and over and over again. It's like that's when it becomes an issue because it's like okay, it's like you don't want to talk about it because you're triggered, but why are you triggered? And or it's like when I would bring up certain issues with former friends, and I would be like, oh yeah, you know, X, Y, and Z, boom, 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 and they'd be like, oh, well, just stop. You don't know, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, no, it's the reality of it. Like I'm literally pointing out your behavior. I'm literally pointing out what you're doing. Either you can accept it and make the appropriate changes, or you won't. You know. And I think that's something a lot of people don't want to do. They don't want to be told what they're fucking up at. They don't want to be told what they're bad at. They don't want to be told X, Y, and Z. But you know what? You have to be told that. It's extremely hypocritical for you to sit there and think that you never have to make any changes. Because you know what? We all change. For the good, for the bad, whatever it is. We all fucking change. And if you want to go through life not making any changes, that's fine. But at the same time, you can't complain with what you got, you know, with what you hold on, with what you receive. You can't complain when people get tired of dealing with you. You can't complain when people get tired of your insecurities popping up, or you're constantly blaming somebody else and never taking responsibility. And I talked about this before with closure. In my previous episodes when I was dealing with my situation that I was dealing with. Sometimes, man, closure is not talking to the other person. It's not. It's not. Having actual conversation. It's not yelling at the other person. It's literally saying to yourself like, "Yo, I deserve better." You know, I deserve somebody who's gonna, want to be with me and won't make up excuses and X, Y, and Z, or doesn't know what they want, or yada yada yada. And like, and that's the thing, man. It's like, um, I think it's okay to not know what you want. To a point. Now, I'm not saying string somebody along and hook up with them. Have casual sex. And like, do all that shit, right? I'm not saying do all that. What I'm saying is you can't treat it like a relationship, you know, when two people are they're not operating on the same length, right? You can't sit there and say like, oh yeah, I don't know what I want, but it's like, no, you know what you want. You just don't want it with me. And it's disrespectful for the other person to sit there, open pray, oh yeah, well maybe he or she would change their mind. They're like, no, you know, or it's not fair for the other person to sit there and wait for the other person to make up their mind. Like, no, if you don't want me, that's cool. Of course, I'm gonna feel a certain way about it because that's just how people feel. People are entitled to, entitled to their feelings. They're entitled to, feeling how they feel, And if somebody tells you, I don't know what I want, but they still want you to be around them, and they still want you to be available for them. They still want you to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Because if you can't give me what I want, but yet you want access to me, like why? Like, why would I sit there and do that? Why would I sit there and subject myself to that when there's no need for that? If you constantly if somebody's telling you, I don't know what I want, boom, 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 but yet they make time for everybody else, yet they make time for people who they consider important, right? But not you. They can fit everybody else into their schedule, but not you. Take note of that. Take note of that and understand that, like, okay, stop over benefiting the situation. Like, don't sit there and become so wrapped up in the situation that you forget that you deserve better too. And if somebody is always coming to you complaining about a situation, constantly complaining, it's like what I brought up before, my former best friend. It got to a point where she was complaining about her ex, this and this and that, saying like, oh yeah, well, so and so won't leave me alone, this and this and that. He's always texting me. He's like, he's always texting you because you're texting him back. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he's always texting you because you're obviously talking to him. Who the fuck's gonna text somebody who's not texting them back? Who the fuck's gonna call somebody who's not calling them back? Most people ain't gonna do that, They'll give you maybe 1 or 2 phone calls. Okay, cool. If you don't hit me back, then fine. Yeah. It's like, and I remember telling her that. I was like, Like, you're sitting there complaining about a situation, and yet you're the one who's perpetuating it. You're the one who's letting this shit happen. So, what you want? It's like, and then, then a whole bunch of shit happened. I'm like, yeah, it's like, no. Because I tell people all the time, man, you got to know when to leave the arena. You got to know when to block, when to block and when to delete and when to just move on. Because there's no point for you to sit there and be like, oh yeah, this, oh yeah. It's like, no. It's like, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if they wanted to make space for you, they would. It's really not that difficult. It's not that difficult that you be like, yo, I deserve better than this. I don't need to be, subjected to this. I don't need to have my mental health fucked with. I don't need to have to be put in certain situations over and over and over again, and it's the same goddamn situation. And a lot of people, when it comes down to it, man, they don't know how to communicate because they're afraid to be vulnerable. And I struggle with that too. Everybody struggles with something at one point in time together. But as long as you recognize it, as long as you make the appropriate changes to be better, then you'll be okay. It's when you don't want to make the changes, it's when you don't want to sit there and have that internal conversation with yourself. That's when you start fucking up. Because you're like, okay, like, I can do X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I can do that. But is it worth it? Yeah. That's when you have to have that conversation with yourself. It's like, okay, I've had the conversation, I spoke to an individual, and while it sucks, any type of friendship that that falls off, the death of a friendship is painful. Because just imagine you going to, talking to somebody every day, and now you don't have the opportunity to talk to them. And I don't mean death like physically dying. I mean the person is still alive, but you don't have the same connection. And that's the hardest part. To sit there and realize that the person that you wanted to talk to every day for the rest of your life is no longer in that capacity for you. And a lot of the times, man, is because people will over benefit a situation, thinking if I just give this shit a lot of energy, he or she's gonna give it back to me. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way because why would you, continuously give energy to a situation where it's clearly not being met? Why would you want to do that? Because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, you're sitting there hoping and praying that this individual sees your worth. And the sad thing about it is that they see it, they just don't care. They don't care because they know that you're not that you're not going anywhere. They know they can do X, Y, and Z, and you're gonna stay right the fuck there for the time being. Now, whether you leave, it's up to you. Whether it could be a month, a week, years, decades later, but eventually you will leave. And when you leave, they're gonna sit there and play victim. They're gonna sit there and they're gonna make it seem like it's like, oh my God, is this or is that? I'm like, no, it's really not. Because at the end of the day, if that's the case, if this individual wanted you to be in their life, that would make the space for you. They would be vulnerable with you, you know. They wouldn't use the shit that you tell them in confidence against you. And the one thing I've worked on, especially in my personal life, in my relationships, whether it's romantic, platonic, whatever it is, right? I will tell people straight up, you don't get to dictate when and where I'm ready to have a conversation. You don't get to dictate or try to force my hand in a situation. Especially after you accuse me of doing something I'm not even remotely doing. Even if I had the time and the opportunity, I'm not going to do that. I don't care what the situation is. If I value you to a point, I'm not going to fucking lie to you. You know, I'm not going to leave shit out in a conversation. And I'm not going to have you out here looking stupid. Because I've had that happen to me, where it's like, I've had individuals have conversations with people that I fucking know, and they don't think I'm going to find out about it, and then I find out about it, and I'm like, okay, but that doesn't make any sense, because she's telling me all this shit that you left out, and it all adds up. And once that happens, I don't care what it is, because I just look at you now like, damn, okay, you said all that to this individual, but you told me something completely different. What else are you lying about? And people are quick to, to call the person accusing them a liar. I'm like, so did you? Because to me, omitting certain things to cover, to save face is a lie. Especially when you don't have to do that. Especially when you can be like, okay, yeah, because when you omit certain things, you're essentially trying to hide the truth. And when you lie about certain shit, it's like, you didn't even have to lie about that. That's just stupid. Now you just look dumb. And it's like, okay, like, how do I approach this, or how do I handle this? Because I'm thinking it's X, Y, and Z, and it's not. I'm thinking it's, copacetic, and it's not. I'm thinking it's X, Y, and Z, and it's not. So it's like, okay, you did all that for what? Because you know how stupid you look? And my thing is like, I'll straight up tell them that, like, yeah, you're fucking dumb. Because there was no reason for you to lie. There's no reason for you to sit there and be like, oh yeah, boom, 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 boom. Like, no, it's like, it is what it is. And it's unfortunate, but it's the truth. It's unfortunate because why would you do that to somebody? Why would you feel the need to have them thinking one thing, do something else, and then they find out, and then you want to play victim? Nah. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people when it comes to vulnerability, because after a while, when you get shitted on, you end up not caring. And I think that's what happens to a lot of genuine people. Like, they get taken advantage of so often. And it usually just starts off with something small, something minuscule, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And when that happens, it's like, damn, It really fucks with somebody's confidence, really fucks with somebody's self-worth, it really fucks with somebody's ability to trust people. And along with trust becomes vulnerability. Because in the back of our mind, we're like, yo, and when I say we, I mean me, we're always thinking about like, okay, this shit happened the last time. Is it gonna happen again? And if it happens again, how do we deal with that? How do we train ourselves to be like, yo, it's okay, this individual is not like the last individual. How do we sit here and not necessarily come with solutions, because you don't have to have everything fucking figured out. But how do we sit there and get better? Because that's what we deserve. We deserve better because we're growing, we're maturing, we're trying to get older with wisdom, not just get older. Because a lot of guys, man, believe it or not, they'll just get older. They'll never get any wiser, they'll just get older. And when that happens, it's a really fucked up situation. It's something that a lot of people aren't built to handle. But it is what it is. But it's important to be vulnerable. You just have to be really careful who you're vulnerable with. Because as you get older, you realize that a lot of people have trauma. A lot of people have trust issues. A lot of people just have a lot of shit going on with their own life that they just don't know how to navigate. And I get it. But it doesn't mean that gives you a free pass to not handle your shit. Like I said in the beginning, your feelings, your emotions are valid. Your behavior is not. Alright, y'all, this is about 27 minutes of your life that y'all won't get back. Appreciate y'all, love y'all. And there's a couple updates that I'm working on, man. And stay tuned because your boys making some moves. I'm not gonna say what they are first because I'm still working on them. I'm still ironing out the details and everything. But hope y'all keeping the 4 P's. Private player, positive pushing. See y'all next week. I love y'all, ghosts. And like I always say, know your worth because you're better than what you are. Peace. Bye, guys.